Fat Records is it genuinely is. It's more than just a label that's putting out records. You know, it's an ethics. It's a lifestyle. It's a family.
To be taken under their wing was something that we knew is something special.
Like to be a part of an era of Fat Records, and that's really cool, you know?
It was good for us being on Fat because suddenly a lot of people thought we are so cool because Fat Mike put us on his label.
Fat Records is important because it puts out the best quality punk rock that there is.
ファットレックからリリースされたことで、もう音楽が連れてってくれたわけよね。
Finally, I guess with Fat, there's a label that's not gonna rip bands off.
I don't want to live in a world where there's no Fat Records.
I think other record labels could learn a lot by Fat because Fat actually gave a shit.
You want to have those opportunities where you can work with people that you respect, people that you love and admire.
You get those compilations and then everything rips on the whole thing and you end up buying every one of those albums.
Yeah, I remember the comps too. What was it called? Fat music for fat people. And they're like the drawing on it was like this, looked like pencil or something. These two fat people like partying.
And when I put on the Fat comps, it was just banger after banger after banger. I mean, track 1 on Fat Music for Fat People, Anti-Manifesto, Propagandhi. It introduced me to my favorite band of all time.
That's our life at play. Like another message we convey. It seems we're only here to entertain. A rebellion catch a fit. Well, I refuse to be the soundtrack to it. We entertain, we're still knee deep in shit. We strive for something more than a faded sticker on a skateboard. Right on your parade or out the door. I don't even care any fucking more. Another message we convey. It seems we're only here to entertain. A rebellion cuts a fit. I refuse to be the soundtrack to it. We entertain, we're still knee deep in shit. In shit. And we're so full of it.
And this, hey neighbors.
My name is Fat Mike. I play NoFX.
Please welcome NoFX.
Oh, that's not a hoodie. It looks like a sweatshirt.
It's a sweatshirt.
Oh no, you could no.
And me first in the Gimme Gimmes.
There, me first in the Gimme Gimmes, everybody.
I have a recording studio. I had a political organization.
A group called Punk Voter is reaching out to the 20-somethings, setting up voter registration booths. There is no balance here. Mike Burkett, better known as Fat Mike to fans of his band NoFX, is a founder of Punk Voter.
I'm a father to 2 daughters. I'm an avid golfer.
I'm gonna tell you what I really think I like about Mondays. Could it be like Saturdays when you don't gotta go to work? Every day is a holiday. I wake up when I want to. I do anything I wanna do. Can't wait for Tuesday.
And I have a dungeon in LA where I spend a lot of time sleeping in a cage. Well, the first punk I ever heard, I was at summer camp, right?
Really?
Joe here was on the work crew.
Joe who?
Joe Escalante of the Vandals.
He was the only kid in the camp that was sufficiently curious about the punk rock music that I brought to the camp.
And then I went home and I went to a record store and I go, hi, I don't know what this band's called, but they sing a song called Beat on the Brat with a baseball bat. Do you have it?
Fat Mike would come back around and say, let me hear some of those songs again. Let me hear that Ramon song. Let me hear that Beat on the Brat song again. What's this Sex Pistol stuff? What can you tell us about the day you turned punk?
Well, my friend said, you want to go see a movie or do you want to go see Killing Joke at the Whiskey?
I go, wait, you're at a punk show? I was so happy, so proud.
Well, my experiences with Fat Mike go back to when we were kids, and I met him at a record swap somewhere in the Bay Area, and he had all these great records. I was jealous because he had a lot of vinyl that I'd never even seen in my entire life. So at an early age, I already knew that like Fat Mike was ahead of all of us with business.
I went to college in '85. I got out in '91, and my plan was to be a real estate agent. So I went to real estate school and got my real estate license, and then there was a big bubble burst in the real estate market, and I just, decided to start touring with NoFX.
In the very beginning, NoFX was not good.
I don't know if you've seen the footage.
When Mike first sort of appeared on our radar, he had embraced that spirit of, you don't have to be good. You just really have to like it.
When we were kids, we started a punk band in '83, and there was absolutely no hope of ever making a living or ever making any money playing punk rock. Well, I started putting out NoFX records in '87 because we had no other choice.
He had already had another record label before, Colossal Wassel Records. That's what he called it. I don't know. I bought a record from him at a punk show. This is in the '80s.
So I spent about $1,000 and recorded and put out 500 7-inches because no one else wanted to put out our records. So that's when I really started a record label.
Buy a record? No one wants to buy any records.
I got my name Fat Mike because in 1986 I went on tour and I was skinny. I was like 135. And then I was in college and my dad gave me a food card. So I ate like 2 dinners a night and I gained like 25 pounds that year. So in '87 when I went on tour, everyone was like, everywhere we went, you put on some weight, didn't you? You got a little Fat Mike. And it was, so the band we were playing, the Subculture, just kept calling me Fat Mike. I used the name Fat Records from, so I'd have a little name recognition. Oh, Fat Mike started a label, Fat Records. How ingenious.
When he would come into Epitaph, when they were signed, and he would come in and we would just talk about business stuff, and he'd be going out on tour, and you could just tell that he was absorbing everything.
I worked for Epitaph for like 2 weeks when I was going to college, and they had no employees at the time. It was just Brett and Jay Bentley. And I did shipping and got ads in magazines, and I just saw how you could do everything and how it's really kind of simple.
He pretty much said like he was going to start a label, and he had the advantage of learning everything that we had done wrong.
I think it was '90 when we were on Epitaph, and I just thought, you know what, I should do this too. Because I just heard Lagwagon, and we just played with Propagandhi. I'm like, I could do this. My ex-wife and I, Erin, first started Fat Records. It was me and her in an apartment and a fax machine and a closet.
In the very beginning, when Mike and I started the label, it was just a hobby and it was just for fun.
I got my dad to help me with a $20,000 loan.
To be honest, there wasn't a lot of thought put into it. It was really just, we like these bands, let's put them out. And then we had no idea what the fuck we were doing, like none. I went to school for creative writing. Mike majored in philosophy. Like, I don't know how to fucking run a record label. Like, in the beginning, it was just a joke. We had no idea what we were doing.
The fax machine would go off, and get excited and we'd pack up orders and ship them. And when I'd go on tour for 4 months a year, she would take care of all the, the shipping and the mail order and everything.
And so he would get excited, as he tends to do, and say, let's do this. Oh, and by the way, I booked a 4-month tour. That's cool, right? You can handle it.
I mean, I had been touring, but I made $9,000 one year, the year I graduated college, and I thought, $9,000, I can live off this, easy.
Hi, this is Toyota Kawasaki, and we're standing backstage live with No FX.
Starting Fat Records was just kind of a byproduct of touring. It just seemed like, gee, I'm seeing a lot of good bands on tour. I should just, put out some records. It's cheap. It just so happened that the first 4 or 5 bands I signed were really good. No Use for Name, Propaganda, Lagwagon, Good Riddance, Strung Out, Face to Face, and No Effects. Everybody was good, and everybody sold a lot of records. Everybody, no one was left behind.
Hey, this is our theme song. It's about huffing. You guys are gonna rock out to it, right? This song's called Lagwagon.
The first band I signed to Fat was Lagwagon.
We'd been a band for a while here in this town, Goleta. We'd made a few demos, I think 3 or 4.
So we'd made our own cassettes and T-shirts, and we're trying to do it our way. You know what I mean?
I ended up moving up to the Bay Area and living with my dad. And I was painting houses up there, and there was a show on Haight Street in San Francisco one night at this club called the Night Break. And I walked in, and there was a couple guys that I knew from this band RKL talking to Fat Mike, who I had met before, but didn't really know. I knew he had just started this label, Fat Records, right about that time. And it occurred to me that I had this demo tape in the car, and I thought, I can be an opportunist here. Maybe I should give him a copy.
And he gave me a demo tape, and I was doing the dishes at my apartment, and I listened to it, and I just really liked it.
And I was certain that he would think it was way too metal.
I thought it was too metal, and I called Joey and go, I want to sign you guys.
When we got signed is when it really started happening. There's a purpose, you had a product, you had your art, your drugs or whatever you need to sell. Go push your stuff around the world.
Not long after that, we were in a lot of conversations with him, and he was telling us how bad our name was.
They were called Section 8 at the time, and I called Joey and go, I want to sign you guys. Let's change your name and put out a record.
We didn't want to change our name, but then we went on like a little run with No Effects, and we kept running into bands called Section 8. The kicker was one day we were in a record store or something, somewhere on tour, and we saw this poster, and it was one of those NWA kind of Compton hardcore rap bands. These dudes looked like they didn't want to be messed with by a bunch of white kids from Goleta, and it said Section 8, and that was kind of the final straw.
So once he signed us and we had CDs to sell and T-shirts and a reason to go out, we just pretty much stayed on tour for like 4 years.
Without trying to be weird, Joey is one of my favorite people on the planet, and I'll just go ahead and say it. Lagwagon is my favorite band, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're on Fat Records. I mean, yes, that gives me a great source of pride, but I just think they're fucking amazing.
To be able to connect with a label that was just starting out when we were just sort of starting out and getting our thing going, and to grow with them and make the mistakes with them. Sometimes we laugh about some of the business decisions. You kind of think like, God, we didn't really even have contracts, and we didn't, it was all handshake and just very laid back, which still is that way, actually. Yeah, I think when I see the record label, I just think that I'm very fortunate. He never really asked us to do anything that we didn't want to do. That's the thing that I often say to people when they ask why we stayed on Fat for so many years. I say, well, if you're on a great label and you grow with the label and they don't ask you to change, they let you do what you want to do, period.
I'll never tell a band what to do, but I will give lots of advice. And some bands like it, and some bands fucking hate me because of it.
That's right.
No Use for Name, biggest sell on Fat Records, you know, under NoFX.
Maybe 89 or 90, I think we played a show with Lagwagon, Pennywise, NoFX, and us at Gilman's Field. And that would have been the first time that we actually met all those bands.
There used to be a club in San Jose called the Cactus Club, and NoFX was playing, and I remember No Use for Name was opening, and he said, I think I'm going to sign this band.
One day, Mike says, hey, I'm starting a record label. You guys want to do a record? We said, yeah, well, sure, we'll do an album. And there was no papers to sign, and there was definitely no money involved. And it was just kind of Mike saying, you want to do a record? Sure. Really that easy. Nothing to it. Probably 2 weeks later, we were in the studio for 2 weeks recording The Daily Grind. And, you know, our recording experience was really good. And it was just kind of cruise control with Fat Records. They really just kind of said, here you go, just keep moving forward, whatever you need. And no pressure ever. I don't think there was ever a moment where we were pressured or talked into anything we didn't want to do, because Mike was in a band. He knew how hard it was.
The CEO is not some guy that you see like once a year, right? And he's totally intimidating or anything like that. The guy is Fat Mike, and he's, you know, we go golfing with him.
Couldn't have been happier. I love that, just everything that was happening at Fat at that point. That period of the punk rock scene was the first time for me that I ever felt current in punk rock. NoFX started making records like The Longest Line and White Trash and stuff like that. That was the first time that I ever like connected to something that was happening right then and there. And that's what, you know, Fat Records world was to me. It was like I finally felt like, you know, I was going to see all these bands that I loved as it was happening. I'm very nostalgic about that time in my life. I mean, I look back on my 20s as this time when I lived in San Francisco. There was this amazing scene happening that I got to be a part of. For the first time in my life, I was making records with people who I loved, and I didn't have to work a job. Like, I haven't had a job since then, you know what I mean, other than being a guitar player. So it's like this golden time that just existed for a few years for me, you know. I was in No Use for Name for 4.5 years, and it was one of the greatest periods of my life.
I remember one of my first shows that I ever went to was a No Use for Name show. Band's up there and playing, and all of a sudden you see this object being thrown, and all of a sudden it hits Tony, and he finished playing the song and didn't miss a beat. And then after the song, he went like this, and he had blood streaming down his face, and picked up this like metal object and tossed it aside and just kept going. It just shows how much heart that these guys have.
Tony was a guy who had 2 daughters and was touring a lot and kind of going through the same thing that I was going through. I could see this empathy that we had for each other, kind of unspoken bond of being the dads on the road. It's really hard for other people who don't have that to understand what that's like. Man, I got my girls at home. I don't like leaving them, but I love playing music. I love being out on stage and playing for our fans and things like that. It's tough to leave your family, and you can hear that in a lot of his music. There's this heartache, you know, there's a lot of minor chords in No Use for a Name and a lot of songs about gray days and things like that. And you can tell he's somewhere by himself, probably in a bar having a drink, wishing he was home.
You listen to Tony's lyrics, you listen to his music, he definitely was, I believe in my opinion, a step above the rest of his peers as far as a writer and as far as a lyricist. And his music really touched a lot of people's lives, and you see it more now than ever since his passing.
I loved Tony Sly.
Tony Sly was he was the best songwriter on Fat Wreck Chords.
Best songwriter.
Here's to Tony.
Learning about melody and songwriting, you know, I learned a lot from guys like Tony Sly. And
Tony Sly, like his stuff could have been on, you know, he could have been on the cover of Rolling Stone.
You know, it's obviously tragic what happened to him, and his music will live on for a long, long time.
So tomorrow we're gonna have a cardboard cutout of Fat Mike, and we're gonna ask people if they want to, if they'd like to mosh with him. But let's go talk to some kids.
I really think the first bands, Lagwagon, No Use for a Name, started the sound, and then Propaganda came along, and that really changed everything.
That changed the game.
That record, How to Clean Everything, was, I couldn't be more proud of anything I put out. Lyrically and musically, wow.
At the time, I think I was pretty much influenced by, or there was a lot of influence from the NoFX Rib record. I thought that was a cool record, and I thought the Bad Religion Suffer record was good. So those, and we recorded at the West Beach studio, so it sort of had that kind of sonic trademark.
Well, Propaganda, musically and lyrically, were just, you know, head and shoulders above everybody else. At the time, nobody was singing lyrics like that. They were really so progressive, and musically, no one could touch them. It was super intricate metal chords, but super melodic melodies, and I don't think anyone still touched them.
Outside of Winnipeg, nobody really knew who we were at all. We had done our own work in Winnipeg to kind of, we did what we could.
We'd started playing some local shows in Winnipeg, and we had kind of a lengthy incubation period as a band. Like geographically, we were just so far away, and Winnipeg's such an isolated city. Like a lot of those bands weren't really making it up there. We ended up opening for NoFX, I think, maybe, I don't know, something like our 6th or 7th show or something like that.
I remember it was a show at the Albert, I'm pretty certain. And I'm pretty sure it was promoted by Derek Riel and his brother, I think, Keith. And I think Derek was the one who convinced Mike that he should see us play, as I recall.
Our buddy who was promoting the show gave them a demo tape of ours and kind of, you know, helped sort of push us on Mike, I think, a little bit.
Mike taking a chance on us, basically, you know, hey, it was going to be a different band. It was going to be Ill Repute. All of his friends told him, put out this Ill Repute record, and But he said, no, I'm going to do this propaganda band. And everyone's like, oh, it's terrible. And then, but he did it, and here we are.
I asked a lot of people about Propaganda. I asked Lagwagon, because they were on the label now. I said, what do you think of this demo? And nobody liked the demo. But I don't know, I saw something in them, and that sold me. I'm like, wow, these guys can pull off harmony, and they're awesome. But I don't know, I saw something in them, and still, they're one of the most important bands I've ever signed.
I guess we turned out to be the token Canadian band to kind of get our foot in the door.
It seemed a bit like a hobby at first, in a really nice sense of the word.
We had no idea anything was going to happen, you know, with the scene in general or our band. We just thought, this guy's going to put out a record for us. Nobody else is stepping up to help us out, so let's do it. We had no real expectations at all.
Go do a record in LA, why the hell not? You know, we were 23 years old at the time, Chris and I, you know, kind of in and out of school and working and stuff. So we just kind of went with that, and that really sort of steered the direction of the band after doing that first record with them. Yeah.
You know, they fly to LA, they see Wayne Gretzky at the airport. They were pretty stoked. And then we stopped by a studio.
Well, the first time was at Razor's Edge Studios in San Francisco.
We recorded for 6 days.
And the first record was 6 days, including mixing and mastering and stuff like that.
With less talk, we kind of had to bail on the first sort of studio attempt for that record.
We went down there and recorded, and we had to bail because we didn't have enough songs. We were so unprepared those days. It was ridiculous. It was just a different time, and you know, the records were more realistic representations of the bands, I think, at the time.
Those original Propaganda records are very much part of what people would call the Fat Wreck sound. And at the time, nobody was listening to metal. Everybody was listening to pop punk. That was like when it was all sort of starting to blow up. When exactly did this metal influence come?
Focusing on rocking a little bit harder and making things a little bit harder edge was just sort of where I think our soul was at from the get-go with the band.
Those guys have always been metal. I remember having a conversation with Chris Hanna in which he said to me that he felt that what he had to say was so important that it didn't matter to him how it was delivered, and that it was more important to get the message out there than it was on how you delivered it.
Publicly subsidized, privately profitable, the anthem of the upper tier puppeteer, untouchable, focus a moment, not in approval, bury our heads in the barcodes of these neo-colonials.
Mike and Erin both seemed like really driven and encouraging and charming people. But it still seemed to me, at that time, I was just like, well, the community of people who are going to want to listen to this music is not going to be massive. And I was wrong.
This was like maybe 1993, something like that, 94. So what was currently happening in punk rock was really the Epitaph and Fat Records scene. And, you know, my first show I ever went to was Green Day, but after that, like, Green Day led me into Rancid and NoFX. And so the second show I ever saw was NoFX, and the third show was Rancid. But that whole scene, you know, then getting into, like, reading the liner notes of the albums was how you discover bands back then. And it was like, okay, who did NoFX think? And oh, okay, so Fat Mike has a record label and, you know, puts out all these other bands. And then they would all do the, like, you know, Fat compilations and the Punkorama compilations. And it just was, you know, there was this whole world that existed in California of punk rock. It definitely had an influence on me.
How ready are you to die for an ideal? Throwing the fist without your head is a pain in the show. This walking wasn't earned. I'm just a mannequin. Whoa, it's not go. What's in the past can't be undone. You've got to separate. Oh, I smell the drama, but it drenched my soul. Put your heart in focus.
So it was about 1993, and we were shopping a demo tape around. We really wanted to try to get out of our little hometown that we were in and wanted to get on a label.
It was about sending cassette tapes in the mail to, we would look at the back album covers, like, oh, this is a rad record label. We put out bands that we liked, and we just made demo tapes, and that's what all the bands kind of did back then. And you send it in the mail, and who knows if anybody ever listened to it.
And one of the labels that we sent it to was Fat Records, because we were fans of NoFX, and we knew that Mike had started a label. The label was still being run out of Mike's kitchen. It was DIY full on, but we've had faith that he knew what he was doing, at least a little bit. He seemed to be onto something.
We got a letter back from Fat Mike. Like, he actually wrote us a letter.
And said he liked some of the songs and wanted to see what else we could come up with. We kept writing new stuff, got a hold of him again. He said he'd like to do a 7-inch.
He wanted to hear like our next demo, like the next stuff we were recording.
While we were in the studio, we threw down really quick versions of new stuff he hadn't heard. And when he heard those, he said, what would you guys think about doing the 7-inch and then doing a full length right after it? To which we said, of course we will.
He said, I have this band called Good Riddance, and we have to do a record. And that record has to be done in 8 days. And I was like, an 8-day record? Because in my world, 8 days, you're just finishing with pre-production. I said, okay, well, let's do it, and get up to San Francisco, and we go into the studio, and we worked 17, 18 hours a day, and knocked out this record, and it was so much fun. I love the fact that we had to work that quickly, because it didn't give you a chance to think, but what it did was it gave you the opportunity to go from the heart. It's like whatever you felt here is what you put down, and there was no second guessing it.
When we did our first album, Mike was there in the studio with us to sort of produce us, because we didn't know what we were doing. But he didn't want to like take anything away from the things about our music that appealed to him.
Especially when I first sign a band, I'm very involved, especially a new band. I want their first record to be totally awesome. I care a lot. You know, when it's a band's 6th record, I just let them do what they want to do, pretty much. I want to give them the best shot, and your first record is so important that I want to be involved.
So he was there to sort of guide us and buffer us, but it was very hands-off. We kind of just did our own thing.
It's kind of silly to say, but like I learned shit from reading Good Riddance lyrics. You know, that affected my worldview, and it opened my mind up to things that I wouldn't have otherwise thought about.
We love Russ being real raspy, his voice. It was more simplistic. That's why, for me, Good Riddance was like just a straight up punk band.
And then Good Riddance came along and simplified it and made it just as, catchy, but with a little more just straight up punk rock edge.
And labels like Doctor Strange, Look Out, Fat Records, Victory, Equal Vision, Epitaph, BYO, Natural.
All right. Look, you don't know, we call ourselves Strung Out.
We were supposed to originally get signed, or BYO was looking at putting out our first record, and they had more of a reputation in the punk world because they were BYO, and we grew up on Social Distortion, and me and Jim used to watch Another State of Mind religiously, and then they turned us down because they thought we were too metal, and so Fat came along, and we didn't really know much about Fat Mike or what he was doing.
Strung Out was interesting because I was really on the fence about them. I didn't I didn't know if I wanted to sign them. I didn't like their demo that much. And their bass player, Jim Cherry, he called me up one day and said, Mike, stop fucking around with us. Are you gonna sign us or you're not gonna sign us? I'm like, I don't know, Jim, I'm not sure. He's like, look, I'll come up to San Francisco and I'll carpet your condo, because his dad owned a carpet business. I go, you'll come up and carpet my condo? He's like, yes, me and Jason, the singer, will come up and carpet your condo.
Me and Jim had to go basically carpet his house.
Jim went up, carpeted Mike's whole 2-story apartment, and I think what was Fat Records at the time was just like his attic, basically, at his place.
I'm like, signed, you're signed. It's a done deal. So they came up and they fucking carpeted my condo.
Kind of doing a little bit of schmoozing, you know, to get us absolutely down on the label, but it worked.
We rehearsed 6 times, as the story goes, and bam, you know, we went right into the studio and recorded the first album, Another Day in Paradise. It was a really good thing for the band because Fat Records was becoming such a hot commodity that people knew Fat Records, and if they knew your band was a Fat Records band, even if they didn't know you, they came out to see you because you were a Fat Records band.
They put out all the melodic music that, I know Epitaph was around, stuff like that, but there was just a different style of melodic punk that they put out that just was very important for us as well, because it established us.
I think it's pretty unanimous that we always felt like we were the black sheep of the label. I don't think that's a very negative thing.
You know, we all sort of come from a similar background. We're just maybe a little more transparent about the fact that we like metal.
We had our own little niche, you know, like people would say that our band, you know, set off the metal detector.
Touring with Lagwagon in the early days brought that out a little bit more in the band because those guys are heshers too.
I played punk rock all my life, but I was always very influenced by like metal bands and metal drummers and stuff like that. We had let Jim go probably a year or two prior to his passing away. And, you know, we had a lot of inner struggles with that whole thing, and had just come to a point where we needed to do some separation.
He got kicked out of Strung Out after their, I don't know, 3rd or 4th record, and it really hit him hard. And at one point, Jim called me from a payphone, and he said, Mike, I appreciate everything you've done for me. I've got a gun to my head, and I'm gonna kill myself right now. And before I kill myself, I wanted to let you know how you changed my life and how much you mean to me. And somehow I talked him out of doing it, and I flew down the next morning and I drove him 2 hours to a rehab in Palm Springs. And he was there for a few months and got clean and ended up dying 4 months later because he'd done too many drugs and his heart stopped. But fuck. I was the last person he called. He called me to tell him how much it meant to him to be on Fat Records and what I'd done for him. And so of course I had to fucking fly down and help him out.
It's a lonely thing sometimes to be a musician and have faith in yourself that you're doing the right thing, that like you deserve to be up there playing and you deserve for people to even listen.
You know, I think when Jim passed away, it was like really shocking and surprising to everyone.
We had already kind of parted ways with him, so it was just like, man, I'd always hoped that someday we could get back together and you know, do something else down the line. And having him gone, it was a really hard thing to face. Generally, it was just something we had to deal with on our own terms.
I think the interesting thing about a musician that passes away that has made some sort of impact on the music scene is your music lives on, and that's a way for you to continue. And people still remember Jim Cherry today and the music that he made, the lyrics that he wrote.
His songs are still a lot of our biggest songs, you know, the songs that kids want to hear, Bring Out Your Dad, and Firecracker and a lot of the stuff he wrote was like, you know, those are staples in our set. And, you know, we owe so much to Jim Cherry. You know, he got the band off the ground, and he taught me how to write, you know, taught us all really how to put together.
He's left this whole path of music. You know, he touched a lot of people, so his music will live on for a long time.
They let us do our own thing, you know. I think Mike knows that we're gonna work our ass off for the label. You're on Fat Records because you're gonna go on tour and you're gonna support the record and you're gonna put everything you got into it.
Fat Records have always given us complete control over everything, from the artwork to the songs. You know, Mike's never asked for a demo except that first album. So he's always just been like, do your thing. You know, we believe in you guys. We know you're gonna tour off it. We know you believe in this. So they've been so supportive to us, and that's one of the things that's just kept us there. In 10 years, we haven't signed a record contract.
To me, like joining Strung Out in the late 90s and being part of the Fat Records scene was like, that was it. Like Fat Records, Epitaph were like the heavy hitters in the punk rock scene.
It never made sense to us to leave a place where you have complete control, you have people that believe in what you're doing, and they're generous about everything. So it's always felt so comfortable.
Somehow Fat Mike always comes out on top, and there's a reason, because he's a smart motherfucker, you know, and he's the real deal. I'm glad that we're still on Fat, because I feel like I'm not a very sentimental person, and I don't look back at the days in the 90s as being the glory days or the back in the day. I look at like what we're doing now and how we are representing ourselves and the label and where we're taking it.
Mystery Motor Studios, as far as I know, Mike and Ryan started it in 97-ish. They've done so much stuff here. That sound has been always in the foreground as a production kind of person, you know, just, you know, something to kind of reach for and, you know, trying to learn it. Brian's kind of a master at that, so.
It was early 90s. Metal was totally on its way out. Everyone was sick of rock and roll. Punk bands we had at the time were a little, the performance level really wasn't there.
A lot of my memories of Fat Records is working at Motor Studios.
He took RKL, Lifestyles of Rich Kids on LSD, and combined it with Bad Religion's Suffer. It was sort of like heavy metal filtered through punk rock. Those fast, crazy riffs, but with like a tune and a melody. You know, it was like speed metal with big choruses.
Everyone just evolved, you know, kind of a little mixture of old metal, new punk.
We wanted to put the attitude of punk rock behind it and make it, you know, shorter, more compact, you know, less ego, less, you know, flash.
I exist in a progressive metal scene, and it's often very pretentious and ridiculous. The lessons that I learned listening to the bands that were on Fat Wreck were that you don't have to take yourself so seriously.
If you talk to the Propaganda guys, the Lagwagon guys, any of the guys in No Use, you know, any of the original batch, we all came from a lot of thrash metal and speed metal. You know, it's how we learned to play, you know, solos and stuff.
Mike was kind of stoked about in the early days. It's like, I like that all my bands that I have on the label so far were former metal bands, because it's kind of a different spin.
Mike just happened to get the right bands at the time.
And you had Ryan Green, who was like the engineer-producer at the studio, who did, I have to assume he did like, you know, 80% of the records that came out at that time. When you have all those different bands being filtered through one guy's engineering sensibility, then there's going to be a, you know, a common thread to it all.
Now, I think with the what everybody calls the Fat sound, it's a team. You know, it was a team effort. For me, I always had a vision when we would go and do a record of approach, and if the approach didn't work for a band, then we would discuss it and modify as we went. But I just always felt that records just needed to sound fresh.
Really, my first experiences in the studio was working with Ryan Green, and Mike would sort of drop by, but really it was like, as far as like tone and performance and all that sort of stuff, I mean, we took our cues from Ryan. And we also weren't like holed up in the studio working on records for 6 months. It's like you did all your guitar tracks in a day.
We were under such a time crunch, we always had to go from the heart. There was no second guessing anything.
He was a master of that. He's fucking master of drum sounds.
Once I heard the beat, it was over. You know, the beat is, I don't know.
Like, I hear it and just go crazy.
The kick drum sound was actually very interesting to me because, you know, a speed metal record will have a little bit of a click to it. So I was trying to incorporate that into, you know, the punk rock sound. So there was a pad that I would use that had like a little metal plate behind it. But there was actually a time on the Leche Con Carne record where I went to Guitar Center to get this pad and they didn't have it. And I was trying to think of what we could use to substitute, you know, that sound. So I went next door to the liquor store and asked them if they had any silver dollars. So I bought $10 worth of silver dollars and taped them to the kick drum head. It was an expensive record for me.
Ryan was like, you know, he was a strong presence, I feel like, in the studio. At the time, I just thought of him as like almost like kind of the boss. Like, does Ryan say it's good or does Ryan say it's bad? You know, if he says it's good, good, we got it.
I think that Fat caught a lot of shit in the 90s for signing bands and supposedly making them all sound the same.
It's kind of like a little bit more California streamlining and homogenization of it all, you know?
A lot of bands that we met along the way tried so hard to sound like all these Fat bands, and they kept asking me this question, how do I get on Fat Records?
For what I like and individuality of music and the way that I saw punk music before, I don't think Epitaph and Fat were good for it, really.
I think that criticism is bullshit because a label can't be responsible for homogenizing anything.
Like, I remember kids coming up to me at No Use shows and going, I remember this one kid one time came up to me and goes, what's it like to be on a corporate sellout label like Fat Records? And this was like 1996. You know what I mean? Like, wait, what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, if there's one guy in music that's just like done it his own way and never sold out, whatever the fuck that even is, it's Fat Mike.
We even got called sellouts because we were on Fat Records, and I thought that was brilliant.
It's that funny thing of like when anything gets too popular, people, you know, there's a knee-jerk reaction by a certain amount of people in that scene to just automatically dislike it.
When you start using similar gear, you know, playing will dictate what that sounds like, because I could play a guitar and you could play a guitar and it will sound different. But I think that the foundational part of the Fat sound is Mike's choice of who gets signed and production and the bands and everybody working together to develop something that seemed to work quite well.
Mike and Erin knew what bands to put together to create the Fat sound.
He sat us in his office and he was going through our albums and he was playing songs, little snippets of songs. And he was basically saying, I like this song, hate this song, hate this song, hate this song, I like this song.
And he called me and he said, listen, if you want to put this record out like this, it's your band, they're your songs, do it. You know, like I will never tell you you should not put this record out. But if you want to keep working on it, then sure. And I was like, oh shit, he doesn't like it at all.
So I think he was trying to give us an idea of what direction he wanted us to move into with our music.
But not just his want. I mean, what you know, where he felt would be good for us.
The fourth and fifth and ninth song really are terrible. I wish you had better songs. But that's indicative of like what Mike and what Fat was. It would be really honest.
Hey, your new record sucks. You know what I mean? Like, he's happy to like tell me like, oh, but this one is good.
You know, one song which is essentially 3 songs, he'd like cut it in half and take bits out or completely leave songs off albums. And we were like, ooh, that's a bit cheeky.
だけど、NoFX が日本にツアーをしに来ることがあったのよ。で、そこで、当時のマネージャー、渡せるチャンスが来たっていう電話が来たの。で、そこでマイクに会いに行ったの。CD を持って。ほんで、
High Standard from Japan. Yeah, they didn't get big here, but in Japan, they sell out stadiums.
そこで初めてマイクに会ったんだけども、で、マイクがその俺たちの CD を聴いてくれたのね。で、 この CD いいじゃないか OK じゃあオープニング俺たちのオープニングやんないかで北海道のライブが急遽決まったんだよねオープニングでそこで
And we don't even have the record in Japan. It was just our imports sold more than anything else on the label.
俺たちはノーエフェクスのオープニングをやるわけなんだけどでも俺たち当時チューニングメーターを持ってなかったのチューニングをしないでライブやったのねそしたらマイクがライブ終わって OK チューニングメーター使えチューニングメーターを使えるようになったらリリースしてやるみたいなことを言われたんだよねおおでもってそっからねもうチューニングメーターの使い方をね覚えてねみんなで練習した、
And I asked Fat Mike, hey, would you put out my band Wax? And at that moment, we had some momentum going on. And he goes, no. I go, why not? He goes, you really guys don't have, you don't have the sound, the Fat sound that I have. I go, yeah, but when you want a band that maybe sounds a little different, he goes, no.
And that was the sound. But then later, it turned into more of a D4, a Veil, Rise Against sound, where it's still very melodic, but not so much like, it's more mid-tempo.
We had 10 years, I would say a good 10 years of glory days. The fact that we had those 10 years where everything that we put out sold over 100,000 copies without us even doing very much, you can't be angry about that. You can't be angry about how the music industry has evolved and changed because we were lucky to have those fucking 10 years to begin with. Like, yes, it's been difficult, absolutely. Things are definitely not the same. And we've had to adapt, we have to take on new ways of marketing our bands. We have to deal with a lot more social media. It's one of the things that I struggle with.
Well, when the CD industry started taking a shit, we tried to hold on for a few years, but we realized we had 3 offices around the world and 18 employees, and it was just too much, and we started to lose a lot of money. It may have been smart to fold the label, but it wasn't really on the table because, we all love doing Fat Records. So we went from 18 people to 5 people, to 5 employees over about 2 years. And it's been that way for, 7 or 8 years, and, we don't make money like we used to, but we all get our salaries paid and make a little profit and get to do what we want to do. You adapt with how the industry is, but it's always going to be shitty. It's never going to get good again. But it's just what it's like now. Punk rock used to be in the 80s. Labels would survive, but it's really about putting out good music. And nobody sells a lot of records anymore. Nobody. Bands sell 20% of what they used to sell. But if you have a lot of bands and you put out good records, then it's plenty to survive.
Having, Fat Records scale things back and do things a little bit more DIY than maybe they were at their heyday, that's the same way Anti-Flag's operating right now. And we're operating that way and we're surviving that way because that's how we started.
To me, when I think of Fat Records, I of course think of Mike and I think of Erin, but I think of Vanessa, I think of Toby, I think of Chad, I think of everyone else that I've known who's either still works there or used to work there and who I know from there.
ファットのみんなには本当にもうなんていうのかな、もうリスペクトと本当もうみんなね本当優しい人たちで。
My name is Patrick Rush, P-A-T-R-I-C. Hi, Fat Records.
My name is Chad Williams. I am the production manager / project coordinator / label manager.
Hey, Joey, what's up? Yeah, he is. He just got here. I'll send you up to him. All right.
You're getting old, we're having fun, 'cause you're
So my main job is to coordinate everything that goes along with the release of a new record, from the masters to the artwork, and deal with all of the manufacturers and designers and studios to get it all put together.
I'm Pat. I run their web store, the website, the social media. So average day I show up, 9:30 to 10.
So I come in between 10 and 11.
Check some emails.
First thing is to go through all the emails that have come in overnight, which is a lot.
Work on my rubber band ball.
And then it's on to working on the records.
Shoot some hoops in the back with Bart. Do some orders, fill up some orders, tweet some stuff.
I'm gonna spend 5 minutes working on the strung out layout, and then I'm gonna spend 15 minutes listening to this new 7-inch test pressing, and then I'm gonna switch to something else. So it's a lot of different projects are all going on at once.
Well, one of my favorite things about being president of Fat Records, it's the best thing of the year is when I get to call a band that I've never met and just say, hey, this is Fat Mike, and they always say, who's this really?
And I pick up the phone, I'm like, hello? He's like, hey, is this Brian? And I'm like, yeah, who's this? He's like, hey man, it's Fat Mike. And I was like, shut up.
No, it's Fat Mike, and I like your band. Who put you up to this? No, seriously, it's Fat Mike, and I like your band. I want to sign you guys.
We want to sign you guys. And I was like, excuse me?
Hey, I got Fat Mike on the phone. They want to sign us. That's so awesome.
And I remember I was like with James in our van in a Target parking lot or something like that. And Mike's like, all right, yeah, I'm into doing it, like, and this is how we should do it. And I was like, cool, awesome, like totally trying to keep my cool. And then get off the phone, and me and James are like freaking out, punching the roof of the van, like we're gonna be on Fat Records, like holy shit, like totally like your teenage dream coming true. You're gonna be on Fat Records.
It's a little early.
Drew, Arch.
All right.
See you in a bit.
Hey, MTV rocks the vote. P. Diddy says vote or die. The marriage between music and politics never been stronger. Several efforts this election year focus on getting young people involved, including one group reaching out to the fringes of the music world.
A new kind of campaign to encourage young voters.
Punk Voter it's an organization of a few hundred bands and a couple dozen record labels and a couple 100,000 kids that care about this country, and we want to see political change. First of all, John Kerry was in a band. He snowboards. Now that's kind of cool.
What was his band? Now, what did he play? The Cow Sills?
I think he played bass, and I play bass. You can't tell kids just to vote. They won't do it. You have to tell them why they should vote and how this administration, it affects their lives.
You feel fulfilled doing this, or do you feel like you're betraying your punk roots?
Yeah, I do. Well, I wish I didn't have to do this.
Yeah, you don't like speaking about this.
I don't like doing interviews. I don't like politics. I like we were talking about earlier. I like gambling. I like golfing and drinking, and that's what I want to do. But someone has to do this. Someone has to get our generation involved in this election. Yeah, Propaganda talked shit about me in a song, and they put me in the same category with Kevin Lyman and I think Rancid.
Well, Rock for Sustainable Capitalism was essentially a lament about the co-optation of a subculture that, as kids, we thought was totally inspiring and naively believed had the potential to change this very deranged society. And we were watching that over the course of the 90s be thrown out the window in favor of record sales and access to wealth and celebrity and status.
I did everything for Propaganda. And because I was backing John Kerry and trying to defeat George Bush, they called me out.
I think we thought it'd be received with more good humor than maybe it ended up being. Mike likes to dish it out, but I guess he doesn't like to take it as much, you know what I mean?
Man, that hurt my feelings so bad.
Yeah, the idea wasn't to hurt anybody's feelings. I thought it was like a back and forth, and I guess the problem was it was a back and forth in public.
The song's serious, but not like serious as some people thought, I thought all the points in that were legit, and I thought, oh yeah, people are probably gonna I don't know, sometimes you don't think too much about something, you know? You're just jamming, making the song, ha ha ha. You know, that's funny. You know, I'm putting Mike's picture in there with fucking Drew Carey or whatever the fuck his name is, John Carey.
I had a moral dilemma with that. Propaganda were putting a picture of me shaking hands with John Carey in their album that I was about to put out, and they were calling me out in the song. And I called up Joe Sib from Side One. I said, "What would you do?" He said, "I'd fucking get rid of the record." And I called up Brett Gurewitz. "What would you do?" He's like, "Fucking drop him, dude." And I'm like, "Fuck, I should do that if I had a sense of pride." But I really don't have a sense of pride. And it was a good record, and fuck, you know, comedians talk shit about each other all the time. So a band talks shit about me. It's fucked, but hey, I was still gonna fucking sell the record and make money off it.
What were our criticisms of the punk voter movement? Well, I guess you could start with, where is it? I mean, in my estimation, movements tend to last longer than an election cycle.
Yeah, fucking government is totally fucked. But I thought the world would be a better place with John Kerry instead of George Bush. And they thought, it's a waste of time. They're all the same.
So aside from this whole thing being essentially Mike's vanity project that he predictably lost all interest in the second his corporate shill warmongering candidate didn't win. Keep in mind, this was John Kerry, a guy who had voted in favor of invading Iraq and who Mike was encouraging young people to vote for because he played guitar and rode a snowboard once.
So they called me out, which is, I don't know, I thought that was cheap. I never said anything bad about them, and I did nothing but always pay them on time. And if you notice, Propaganda has given some of their newer records to Fat Records, and we've been working with them again because they said, you're the only label that's always paid us on time and always been fair. So, you know, I don't hold a grudge, and I'm proud to put out Propaganda.
I got nothing against them, you know, nothing at all, really. Nothing that I didn't have against them before all that happened, you know?
And anyways, I mean, it's fucking Propaganda. What the fuck are you expecting?
The bands I signed, like Teenage Bottle Rocket, they're alcoholic. I wouldn't say drug addicts, but drug users. Just like most of the bands on Fat Records. They're all anti-religion. They do this because they love it and because they love getting wasted and playing punk rock.
The only negative of Fat Mike is that when I do see him do interviews and he talks about, you know, well, the label is about this kind of debauchery of alcoholism and drug use. I never understood that.
Apparently Mike Park thinks I'm irresponsible by being an alcohol abuser and drug abuser, which is funny because Mike Park believes in Noah's Ark. Mike Park is such a Christian that of course he's going to say something like that.
I always thought punk is the opposite of that. Punk to me is always about being intelligent. It's not about getting shit-faced. To like promote it, I feel like he's such an influence to a lot of young kids. So I never understood that that negative influence on our youth.
This is my responsibility. Hey kids, don't do drugs. Wait till you're an adult and are responsible to do drugs, which is what I did. I didn't do drugs till my 30s. So there's my message to the youth of America. Don't do drugs till your 30s and be like me. So what would you do? You sign a band, get dead. You don't really think they're that great, but there's something about them you think is really cool. They have some really cool songs, and I go to produce their record.
And Fat Mike's all, I got a bottle of fucking whiskey for you, come in and record.
And one night they're like, come on, let's party, Mike. I'm like, I can't party. I have to go see my daughter's performance in the morning. You go, come on, dude. I go, no, I don't want to.
We just got back from Tijuana. I had this Carmex bottle of sassafras. You know what sassafras is? It's like MDMA mixed with acid, mixed with a tranquilizer, mixed with
some K, ecstasy, whatever.
I took the end of a matchbook and just dumped it in his beer.
And dosed me. And I feel it, I go, what?
I can't party. I have to go see my daughter's performance.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Because it's good shit.
Because they love getting wasted and
playing punk rock. And they're like, we didn't do anything. And I knew they did. And I got home. My fiance was mad at me. She thought I was partying with them. We got to get up and be with the kids.
3 in the morning, this old lady hits us up and goes, the fuck did you give Mike? What'd you give Mike? And I'm on the phone, it was a placebo. I didn't give a shit.
And I told people the label, and they're like, fuck them. Fuck this new band, drop them. I'm like, it's kind of cool. I mean, fuck the balls on that band.
We thought we were gonna get kicked off the fucking label.
They fucking dosed the record label president. I mean, fucking assholes, but I still like them. I mean, that's the kind of bands I want on my label. Don't fucking dose me, anybody, bands. But that's a Fat Records band.
Wearing fucking Argyle pants and a mohawk. Who the fuck has a mohawk anymore? That dude.
You guys are so late. Sorry, Erin.
I think to many people you're a bit of a mystery. What exactly do you do at Fat?
Wow. Everything.
I know that, Fat Mike is the head honcho there. Well, actually, Erin's the head honcho, but...
Oh, love Erin.
We always had a great relationship with Erin.
エリンは本当にもうかっこいいし。
I like Erin. We hang out and drink Jameson.
Erin's one of the best people I know. Just period.
If I ever needed something, even after the band now being defunct, she was there.
Yeah, I always thought she was a key person for Fat to be working, and Mike's more of the guy that keeps an ear or an eye out for new bands. Erin's usually the one that does all the work.
Erin's commitment to being a stand-up human being, treating people the way you want to be treated.
She's also honest, but maybe with a little softer touch.
Erin was working hard. I mean, she was doing the day-to-day, taking care of so much. And, back then there was a lot going on with the company, so Erin kept a lot of things going.
As far as the business side of things go, we probably dealt with Erin more than we dealt with Mike. I always sort of viewed Mike as he was sort of the creative, and Erin was the bottom line.
Working with Erin, I love Erin too. If she's watching this, she'd probably tell me that, I did a half-assed job on my lip liner.
So yeah, Erin was great and a huge part of that company, and I'm sure a big part of its success because she probably had to keep Mike in line from time to time on stuff.
He would be touring a lot with NoFX, and there were all these bands that were so great, and they had no label representation, and they had no means of getting their name out there. And we thought, wouldn't this be fun as a side project? Why don't we just do this?
She kind of came in with Mike, and they were a team.
I would say that, in terms of the last 25 years of my life, mostly what I've done is handle all of the business end. Mike has handled the artistic part of the label for the most part, and then I've handled the actual daily operations and the business part of it, all of the finances and the actual sometimes tedious parts that go into actually running a business that the creative people don't necessarily want to think about or want to deal with. Somebody else, Mike would have a brilliant idea, and then somebody has to make that happen.
She's definitely a part of that label that also makes it a really great place to be.
We've been divorced now for 5 years, but we still work at Fat Records, and we still have a totally good relationship.
Even through everything that Mike and I have been through, the fact that we are close enough that we can run this business together.
And nothing's really changed, which is awesome. There was 2 years where we were not, thrilled with each other. But we kept Fat Records totally business-oriented, and we still had weekly meetings, and it never really affected our business relationship at all. I'm president, she's vice president, and luckily, president gets to make the decisions. So, ooh.
It really just truly is a testament to how tight our community is. There was, it's not like there was an option. When Mike and I split up, I was like, okay, well, there's no choice. We have to figure out how to be friends, because we have to figure out how to make this work, because this is our family. Fat Records needs us.
But, all the bands know her and they all know me, and I don't think they'd feel comfortable if one of us wasn't there. well, mostly me.
This is our community, and you can't, you know, it's sad enough when a marriage breaks up, but you're not going to break up your whole fucking family. You can't do it.
Punk rock, it really is about family. It is about family. It's about chosen family. It's about people you want to spend your life with. That's the greatest thing about punk rock. Well, and it's the best music in the world.
I think when you've been on one label your entire career as a band, and you've kind of grown up with everybody that's worked there over the years, and they're family.
To be accepted into that Fat Wreck family was a big deal, you know, a huge part of who we became.
Well, we keep a family atmosphere at Fat. I think just because we're honest with bands, and I end up touring with bands a lot. You know, when I sign a new band, I usually take them on tour with NoFX. And so we end up hanging out a lot and drinking a lot and doing a lot of drugs together and getting to know them.
It was maybe like 4 shows, but it probably took like 30 years off of my life. It was just like the most ramped up partying ever.
And it's really great that they have, you know, that family vibe as far as running Fat, you know what I mean? Like even if you're a brand new band on Fat, you're part of the family.
I mean, we're humbled by being able to be a part of that family. For instance, like Sam was talking about, like last year we were on tour and we rolled our van.
That night we called up Erin at Fat and we said, hey, we rolled our van like 3 times, it's demolished. Our equipment is on the road, freezing out in the snow. Within 24 hours, Fat Records had us back on the road. No questions asked. No questions asked, just like, hands down, what do you guys need? Like fucking moms and dads and brothers and sisters.
One thing that sums up Fat Records, besides the bands that are on it, I would say heart and family. Those 2 things. And I think that was one of the reasons why it had so much success. There was never a time that you ever felt alone. You had a network of friends that were all there for you at all times.
I like that Chris Sheffield from the Foo Fighters worked there.
The fact that we were all friends, the fact that I knew every single person that worked at that label and spent a lot of time with them, not just dealing with things related to our band. Most of the time, not dealing with things related to our band. Most of the time, it was, you know, the Fat bowling team or the, you know, just being at a bar somewhere with those guys.
You know, call that label home for the better part of a decade now. It's fun to be there, and they make everything enjoyable. It doesn't feel like work. Everyone's smiling and laughing and hanging out, and there's music being played in the background, and it's really good music.
It's supposed to be about playing music and having fun, and you're playing music, and then it kind of turns into a job, and you make money off it, but it's nice when people are honest. It's cool.
Because I think they just treat it that way. I mean, aesthetically, everything they've ever done, like their comps and their videos, and even like, you know, I remember the Peep Show videos. It always seemed like they were all friends, and they didn't try to appear like they were selling something to everyone, to all these kids. It seemed like they were just doing what they did, regardless if anyone bought it or cared about it.
The Fat family. What a crazy, huge, dysfunctional, fun, creative group of people.
Oh, I remember back in the days in the 90s, we talked about this family thing a lot, and we all wished that it's gonna be like a family. Maybe it was like a family, but to me it appeared more like a mafia.
I have relationships with every band on my label, and you can talk to any band, and whether they left or not, we're all still friends, we're all still family.
Never had a reason to look around. We were treated well, we were afforded every opportunity to succeed. We had strong backing. We had the freedom to write and to record what we wanted, where we wanted. I don't know what more you could ask for.
There's not very many just normal dudes in this scene at all. And Fat Records was a perfect example of that. You've got a bunch of extreme personalities in there that are having a great time traveling down the road on their tour bus and playing big shows all over the world to keep that audience for that long. And Fat Records has managed to do that. You know, the bands on that label can play to 1,000 people in almost any country in the world. You know, so that's success.
Business is all about relationships. You know, when someone says it's not personal, it's business, fuck you. You know, it's all personal. It's all personal. You can't just say, oh, I'm just looking out for myself. I ripped you off because I'm looking out for myself. It's business. What a fucking piece of shit that is.
Out of anybody I've ever dealt with in the music business, he is the easiest guy to deal with.
I got to be honest, like, it's the only record label that's ever paid me. And that's awesome.
He has no problem telling you just what he thinks. So even if it's negative and hard to hear, you know that he's telling you the truth.
It's a label that, like, I think all the bands on it will attest to his generosity and to his honesty and to his, like, being real.
He talks shit and he's funny and he's super dry and sarcastic, but when you're being real with him, he'll just tell you what he thinks.
He's kind of like a weird, fucked up father figure.
Fat Wreck's lasting legacy will probably be fucking Fat Mike with a ball gag in his mouth.
Well, legacy implies that it's gone and dead, and it's what people remember. It's not gone and dead.
A few hundred really quality records. A couple clunkers in there.
Each one of those records that they put out is part of the legacy. You know, it's not like one thing that you could just say like that's Fat Wreck's legacy. But if there was, you know, I don't know what it would be. You know.
They still put out great music. There's a lot of good bands right now on Fat.
It felt like home, you know what I mean, when you discovered it. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, okay, like this all makes sense to me. You know, all of these bands are different, but all kind of are covered under that umbrella, that Fat Records umbrella. You know?
If I'm trying to bring in a friend into punk rock or trying to show him something.
Fat Records.
Yeah, I show him Fat Record bands, you know. Fat Records, you can't go wrong.
I mean, they were such a part of a huge force, a huge sound. I mean, the bands, obviously, the music.
Lagwagon. That's what it means.
Oh, Propagandy, definitely. So many great bands. No Use for a Name, Lagwagon, of course, No Effects. One of my favorite bands on there, Guns and Wankers. I love that.
Bracket, great band.
The record label to this day has a strong following. Like even my 16-year-old brother is like following all the Fat Records bands.
Really, the main thing that sticks out to me is the longevity of this label and this scene that we're a part of.
It's amazing to see that like Fat is still such an influence and people still care.
Well, it obviously means a lot to a lot of people. I'm really happy with the relationship we have with them. Really happy the records that came out with them, and really appreciate that Mike took a chance on us in the first place. We'd still be playing in a bar in Winnipeg.
I think Fat's lasting legacy is just, again, like doing whatever the fuck they want and making it fun for everybody. They're realistic, they're fun people, they're real people, and they really give a shit, and that's been my favorite part about like working with them.
I'm so lucky to be able to be part of this. The fact that they trust us with their music. Like a band like Lagwagon that has never wandered. They've never looked at other labels. They've never thought about changing labels. And I just feel like that in and of itself is a legacy. Like I feel so blessed to be able to put out this piece of history. I just can't even, look at goosebumps. I'm not kidding, there's goosebumps. It's so good. And that to me, like, I don't know how to answer the legacy question exactly, but that is a moment in which I feel like we're doing something that's important here. This matters. And it's not just the bands, but it's also the personal relationship that we have. And that, you know, means everything to me.
I think they're honestly going to go down as not only one of the most revered punk rock labels of the West Coast, because they're obviously associated with the West Coast so much, but as one of the most revered punk rock labels ever. I feel like Fat Records has never let me down. It's still that way where you just buy it because it's on that label. It doesn't really have anything to do with the band. I just say, well, oh, this is a Fat Records release. I'm going to give it a shot.
I don't really think about how Fat Records has affected people's lives. I really don't. I go to Fat Records now, you know, one day a week, and I love it there. And I love having the label because I love putting out good punk rock. I don't like to think about our legacy or anything like that. It's kind of, I don't care. I care about putting out good music, and I really care about our reputation, but I don't think about stuff like that. Fat Records, it's fun. It's been such a great thing. It's just part of me. I don't think about it. I think about what's going on now.
was kind of safe to say that if it had that little Fat Record on the back and stuff, it was going to be a good band.
Fat Records is important because they were the gateway into punk rock for any kids who were looking to find it.
If I had one thing to say to everybody at Fat Records, it would just be thank you for existing.
I was the kid that turned all of my friends on to punk rock, and I did that through Fat Records bands.
Yeah, they've been doing it for, you know, what, 25, 30 years, so, and, you know, people still love it.
Their lasting legacy, the Fat Records sound, it's unique.
They're kind of a record label that's showing the world, you know, punk's not dead.
Before the internet, all you could do is really just kind of learn about a label and buy everything that label put out.
How long have they been doing it now? 25 years?
I don't know what their legacy would be. I mean, awesomeness. They just punk rock and good times and just great music, and it was compassionate and truthful, and just a lot of the true punk elitists will talk shit, but dude, I mean, come on, you can't fuck with Fat Records.
My favorite thing about Fat Records, I think, is the people.
Everything was more dramatic in the moment, but you know, as time goes on, you realize who gives a fuck about all that, you know.
Like, she's not listening to Taylor Swift. She's not listening to, I don't even know what people listen to. Whatever the fuck, Keisha, I don't even know. Whatever that crap is that everybody else is listening to, my daughter wants to hear Masked Intruder.
My daughter's best friends, they grew up together. They're more like sisters. And I hang out with Erin all the time. We have shared likes, many. Jameson. We're big fans of the Jameson.
He came and saw me do comedy. He came and saw me do comedy a while ago at the Laugh Factory. I got him in, all of his friends. I mean, they had I think people were coming in with whips and plastic, and there was a lot of squeakiness going on because so much leather on everybody. And everyone loved the show. They're like, oh man, you're really funny, you're really funny. And I asked Fat Mike, what did you think? He's all, I didn't think you were funny, but everyone I brought liked it. That's Fat Mike.
One of the members, I believe it was Eric Melvin, sent me a single, and I was very excited about it. And when I heard it, I was very disappointed, so I wrote them a letter back saying, I don't know, just keep me on the radar, you know, I'm not too excited about this particular release.
And I think the record sales probably reflected that, you know.
Who do you like more, Chad or Bart? Have you ever seen Fat Mike's girlfriend in a porno? Yes.
I'm Tim from Rise Against.
We tried to get signed to Fat before we signed to Capitol Records, and we got a form letter back. And it wasn't even like a handwritten thing or anything, and it was a form record, had maybe like a dozen different things, and it was just a check mark that said, don't quit your day jobs.
I don't want these children to hear this story.
It was kind of one of those things where when the label put something out, you just automatically at least gave it a chance, you know? Most likely bought it, but gave it a chance.
When you knew that it was going to at least be within a scope of something that me and my friends were going to be able to like bang our heads to.
Oh, let me see. Remembering Fat Records, a retrospective, a recollection.
How do we have a kid? I go, well, start like this, and then makes a kid, and then you have this kid, and then you put clothes on the kid, and it's easy.
There used to be an employee there named Toby Jeg, who now runs Red Scare Records out of Chicago, but I'm 100% positive he's the one who did this joke. So on the Fat Records site, it says, to send demos, please send them to Asian Man Records, attention Mike. That's been going on for like 8 years. So 8 years of getting horrible demos.
So when it happened, it was kind of like a dream come true for us, and got to go on tour with No Effects, and it's like fucking A.
Yeah, man. This probably wouldn't exist without Fat Records because it helped put independent punk rock music to a bigger level, which is probably more important than, you know, some of those bands you like, you know, Green Day or Rancid blowing up.
Efe's the new guy. Hi. Golly.
Oh, perfect.
It really was when Nirvana broke that everyone thought, shit, we could actually make money playing punk rock. And the thing that was crazy to all of us is we thought, finally, people know that punk rock is great. What took them so long from realizing that this is the best kind of music? It's just the most melodic and the most rockin' and the most fun, played by the coolest people, and yeah, it was our little secret, but then the world found out that punk rock is awesome, and it's still the best kind of music. Punk is great music played by bad, drunk musicians who are on drugs. That's punk.
So
I want to know that, I don't know, how come every time I interview for this thing, I'm drunk? You know, I'm not drunk all the time, but you always show up when I'm drunk. The only time I really get in bands' faces about doing something, it's usually because I'm trying to get them to fucking do drugs. I mean, like Rise Against, no one in Rise Against has ever drank or done drugs. So when I'm around them sometimes, I'm like, come on, you guys, you're in a huge rock band. What are you gonna tell your grandkids? You gonna tell them how you went out for pizza after the show and saw a movie? You know, you have to fucking party a little because you're not gonna make any bad decisions if you don't party. And if you don't make any bad decisions, you're not gonna do anything fun. Ow! Oh, I got stung, I'm getting stung!
With what?
A bee.